Hey, Adam T here. Trying to figure out how to use the position pass and depth pass and OpenEXR and whatnot in After Effects and from Cinema to get some depth information for depth of field plugins, specifically LensCare. Afraid I've confused myself and probably some other people in some things I've written on the forum. So let me see if I can maybe help to get things figured out a little bit. So what I've done here is I've rendered out a two different things. One was a multi-layer EXR that includes the depth channel and also includes a position pass. And then I've separately rendered out a 32-bit TIFF file that's only the position pass. The position pass in this case was set up from the camera perspective, and the scale I used here I think was 0.0008 or 9. I find I don't really understand how the scale setting is working, but so for me it's just kind of it always seems to be in the 0.001 range, and it's kind of trial and error. What I've been doing is just going into the picture viewer and then turning down the into the filter settings, and then using the curves and just turning the red and the green all the way down so I can just see the blue channel and make sure there's enough contrast to be usable. And then I'll just change the settings a little bit, render, and go back and forth until I get something that I think it looks good. So that's been my workflow. I'm sure there must be a better way to do it and some sort of rationale for the way that the scale function is working that hopefully somebody can explain. Anyway, so far here in this scene, let's see what I've got set up. I've got the depth of field effect on the top layer, which is the multi-layer EXR. The bottom layer, right now I have nothing. That's just another copy of the multi-layer EXR. So let's work on that. And so with the multi-layer EXR, what you're going to need is this 3D channel extractor plugin. So I'm going to make the top layer invisible right now, and then I'm going to drop this effect on the multi-layer EXR. So off the bat, it doesn't seem to do much. But so what you have to do is go into each one of these different channels, and that pops up this dialog, and then when you click on the channel, then you have access to the different layers. So here you see I've got depth. It says Y. I guess that's because After Effects has a different, considers Y as Z and vice versa in Cinema, or whatever, but that's just the way it is. And then you've got the position pass, each of the different directions, blue, green, and red. So let's just start out with depth. So I'll pick depth Y for the red channel, and I'm going to do the same thing for each channel in all cases. And then we'll click OK. Aha! So now what this gives us, let me go to 100%, and you can see, so now we have a depth pass, and it appears to be aliased. Which is funny because I thought it had been unaliased, but I guess not. So if you use the depth pass, you're going to get that aliasing. And let me just undo a few times because I think I've moved this layer around. Oops. Edit. Redo. Okay. So you could use this, but then you're going to get the same problem. You could use this in your lens blur plugin, but you'll get the same aliasing problem that we have from the native depth blur. So that's no good. So let's go back in here, and instead of using depth Y, we will use camera blue in each channel. Aha! And so now what that gives us is the depth information without aliasing, and it's 32-bit and all that good stuff. So if we go to back 50% so you can see the whole thing, and it looks like we have a decent gradient, you know, maybe not perfect, but I think it's probably enough contrast for the plugin to work with. So in order to use this in Lens Blur plugin, we're going to have to pre-compose it. So let's just go to pre-compose. Let's move everything into the new layer, and then we'll bring the top channel back, and we'll go to Frischluft depth of field, and we'll go to depth layer. That will be this comp here, and now let's turn up the blur, and let's just turn it up a shed load so we can see what's going on, and I'll pick a different focus point, maybe here. So you can see, let me go to 100%. So yeah, you can see that's working pretty good. You choose different focus points, over here, and so you're not getting any of these edge problems that you can get with aliased depth mats. We'll just go all the way to the front. So far so good. But now let's just delete this effect, and I'm going to delete this, and let's look at how you can use the direct position pass without having to use the extraction and pre-comp and all that. So I'm just going to drag this down, and you can see what it looks like rendered out of Cinema. So this is right now got obviously the red, blue, and green channels, each representing a different thing. So now let's go back over here to the top layer, make it visible again, and we'll get our depth effect on it again. But this time we're going to use the position pass only TIFF, and we'll just crank this up. And you see, off the bat, let's just see what happens if we just pick a spot. It's not working correctly because it's not because we still have all the channels, so it's not giving you a pure depth representation. So, oops, excuse me. Where is this setting? I'm looking for the setting that lets me choose which channel to use. Depth buffer. Yeah. Okay, so by default the plugin is using luminance, because most depth passes are luminance passes. But in this case, the blue channel represents the depth information, so we'll just use nothing but the blue channel. Now, if we pick a position, see, we're getting a legitimate depth blur. Because it's kind of lower contrast than the pure depth pass, you need to crank up the settings a little bit more. It could be problematic. That may, I think this is a factor of setting the scale appropriately inside of Cinema. But if if it's just, you just have to get used to working with higher settings than you normally would. Let's go back to 100% here. So it's basically, I believe, doing the same thing. It's a little too high. Let's go a little bit lower. So let's just pick some different positions. And so you can see it seems to be working fine. And this is what I have learned. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to delete this layer here, and so we're just looking at just the depth pass. And I talked about using curves inside of Cinema, but we can do that here so you can see what it looks like. So let's just go to curves. Oops, if you spell it right. We'll just drop that on there. And so let's just get rid of our red. We'll get rid of our green. And so this is this here is what this looks like when you just the blue channel. So as I adverted to earlier, you can see that it's definitely not as contrasty as your typical depth pass, but I think it has all of the enough values in it to especially with a 32-bit file to create the effect as we saw just a moment ago. And if you want to see, just out of curiosity, what it looks like, what the other channels look like, oops, let's max that out. Red, blue, we'll get rid of that. So this is just the green channel, which I think represents Y. Let's go to red and crank that up. Turn green back down. This is just the red channel, so I guess that represents position from the x-axis, sort of camera x-axis. I guess I don't be damned if I know. But anyway, this is what it looks like. So I hope this was somewhat helpful and not just even more confusing than we'd already been.